the Shenanigans Motorsports number 11 Junior Late Model at Sunset Speedway, and you are watching ONTrack Weekly.
Good evening, everybody. Cam K here with you. G-Force TV. And we are starting to get to the very end of racing season 2024. Yes, I'm sad about that, as I'm sure everybody is. Coming off of the Great Canadian Weekend at Delaware Speedway, we're definitely going to touch on that, touch on how everything kind of played out. We've got Championship Weekend for Sunset Speedway and for Grand Bend Speedway this weekend. Looking forward to Velocity next week. Then we've got Frosttoberfest, and we end everything off with our Autumn Colors. And I'm going to start off tonight with just a little bit of, it's sad for me. We've not been, and I say we as the Stickers and Scuffs crew, we've not been a part of the racing scene very long. In fact, we really only got to start the podcast in 2020 during COVID. Actually, is where Graydon and I kind of first met, and it's one of those things that we weren't sure how things were going to go, and we had actually started talking with the team on Twitter way back when, and that team and the people behind it were a part of the Ontario Sportsman Series, and now I had known the Ontario Sportsman Series for several seasons. I'd actually been following it since I saw the race way back in 2005 at Peterborough. I was just enthralled with it. It was the series that CASCAR, had with it, and it's the series that didn't come with the NASCAR buyout. They decided to keep it separate, and so Ontario Sportsman Series is formed. And so I started talking with this team, and we were just kind of breaking into everything, and I will easily say that they were probably both of these guys were the first two that really helped not only bring us in, but also helped me become a part of the Ontario Sportsman Series during their social media and working behind the scenes in that series, a series that I loved. And I see today that, and I've kind of known that this was likely happening, but they do have their car up for sale. It's been, they've been a part of the series for quite a while, consecutively every year since 2018. They've been a part off and on previous to that, but Herniak Hall is moving on, and Mike Herniak and Mark Hall, two of the series' most regular and well-known names for what they have done. And I think, unfortunately, people might have, people have opinions on racers and people within the industry, but I want to put it out there that the series would not be alive today if it wasn't for those two. They took it on and kept it alive, put the people in place that are there now, and they were the first OSS team, one of the first teams to want to run our Stickers and Scuffs decal. They invited us to their team party. They made us feel a part of the racing community from the very beginning when we were just getting started. They didn't have to do that. Who are these two schmucks that don't know much about a lot of things and aren't well known in the industry? But it was immediate, and they put me into contact with Dave Alexander, and now I've worked with the OSS since 2021, and being a full participant since 2022, and absolutely love it, and we've grown the series a lot thanks to those two people, and I think the biggest thing that I want to say is thanks, not just thanks to Mike, Mark, but their entire team, Uncle Bob, rest in peace, and Denise. There was somebody that you would always see at the racetrack, and they'd always have something to say, always provide kind words. And, I think it's been a very tough couple of seasons for them. They almost won the championship back in 2022, and the travel was getting to them. It's a long travel for them. They come from Kingsville, Essex, and it was starting to become a bit of a grind, and so they're gonna do something a little bit different next year. But for myself, and for OSS as a whole, I just want to say thank you, because there wouldn't be a series if they didn't do what they could to keep it alive. When during COVID, it was pretty close. Like we were really close. And you can't have a series if people don't want to stick around and try and save it, and they did. And so I just want to make sure that they got a little bit of praise, because without them there is no Stickers and Scuffs to this degree, I don't believe. I think one of the best stories that I have is Flamborough 21. NASCAR Canada came to Flamborough as part of their season championship that year's. It was just because they couldn't go outside of the province, so and they were just going to one race outside of the province, and so Flamborough did a doubleheader there. It was terrible weather, and of course I had brought my coworker. I had gotten them tickets, my coworker and his kids. And here I go, like they've traveled in from Toronto, and downtown Toronto, mind you, and the weather sucks, and the racing's not going to happen. And but that Michael Herniak Jr. and Mike and Mark, they brought those boys into the trailer. They had them sit in the car, and they didn't have to do that. There was a rain delay at a racetrack, but they did that. They got them hero cards, let them try out the driver's helmet and the suit and everything. So it was an amazing afternoon, and I can't thank them enough for stuff that they've done for us personally. It hurts because I've worked with Mark in the OSS as an official behind the scenes since I came in, and so it's going to be a little different. But you know what, they deserve it. They've deserved some time off from touring, and that kind of does lead into what we're talking about, and that touring is becoming a very difficult thing for racers to continue, and it is not the easiest thing to have to do, especially in this day and age. It is so expensive. Most racers that we've talked to that don't want to tour or can't tour anymore, it's been because of the cost. It's nothing to do with going out to the races and participating in them, but without being able to find partnerships, without with also, I think, a lot of the scheduling behind it, we have a lot of problems with being kind of the last on the card and the farthest to travel, and that is really difficult for people when they come to the racetrack. And I don't think, and as I want to be as respectful around this, but I think that needs to be brought a little more into account when tracks are putting the series on. And I think that's where stuff is changing a little bit, because I think you always wanted to be the headliner. You wanted to be the last show of the night, to make sure that, that there was, to make sure that there was it was a big event. But I think what we're seeing now is, after a certain amount of time, people aren't willing to stay past a certain amount of time at a racetrack. I think we've seen it a couple of times this year, where when your show starts to hit 4 or 5 hours, it's getting really tough to keep people there. So you got to go as quickly as possible, compact as possible, and then you have to think about it. Those guys that are in the touring divisions then have to, once the race finishes, if they're on last, then they got to go to tech, then they got to pack up, and then they got to travel. Sometimes our series drivers travel 4 hours to get home, and we finish at midnight. You're getting home 2 or 3 in the morning. Some are staying over, and which is great. Some people like camping and they don't mind staying, but as Ashley says, what's the incentive there? I mean, we talked about this. You're not in racing to make money, and I think with how expensive the cars are, how expensive gas is, hotels, everything in perspective there. I'm thinking that the way that touring is going right now, I mean, as an outside observer, okay, and I'm talking as I am not a team member with anybody. I am just somebody that is that gets a lot of drivers and people within the industry that messages them. Sometimes a little too much, but the consensus around touring is that it's not attractive. It's not something that people want to do. And I think you're seeing that in the touring divisions with like Dayco Superstocks and APC. You've had a lot more people that have decided to stay close to do their home track racing, which is not a problem. That's actually, I like that the home tracks are benefiting from it. NASCAR Canada is another example where you can see the races where there is a farther distance, they don't get the counts that the local races do, and that's a product of racing as a whole. The attractiveness isn't there. So what needs to change? Well, I think there's a lot of things right now that series touring divisions have to consider, and even us in OSS, I think that there is stuff that needs to be considered, even on the lines of race distances and calendar shortages. I understand that might not be a popular decision, but cutting down from, say, a 10 race or a 12 race or a 15 race championship, going down to 7 to 8, but double up. Yeah, sure, people don't like double features, but speaking from Flamborough, I think double features work fantastic there. Instead of going 2 weekends to do 2 different features, you go 1 weekend and you do 2 features that day. Yes, there's a lot of other things that can impact that race, where if you have issues in the first race, then you can't participate in the second one. But at the end of the day, if you can cut the travel in half and still get the amount of races that you need to build a championship, why not, right? Obviously, it's not as easy for the guys that travel all over the place. But I think you're seeing that travel is and touring especially is becoming very, very difficult for people, whereas they're starting to balloon a little bit. I mean, every division is struggling, I think, at home tracks. Like there's at least one or two that don't have the counts that they would hope for, but we know that racing is a very, very difficult sport to be in. It is primarily about being able to have money to race. That's really what it comes down to a lot of the time. Speaking of the Hot Rod Zeros, I'd like to see 50 lap features and an 8 race calendar. See, that's what I'm talking about, Scott. You know, if you can limit the amount of damage and the amount of wear on the cars, but double what you've got or cut down the races, it doesn't have to be much. But I think what we're seeing is the far distance tracks, depending on the location, they get kind of screwed over. Because when people don't want to travel that far, and then all of a sudden they're on the schedule, people don't show up. So it hurts both. It doesn't hurt just one or the other. It hurts the touring division and it hurts the track. There's no winner there, unfortunately. And that's, I know Kevin says, I still love the travel series, and that's, you're absolutely allowed to love it. Everybody's allowed to love traveling. I mean, that's part of it. But unless the payouts are huge, people, have got stuff that they'd rather spend their money on. And it's showing. I think APC's got a good schedule size. I think like 9 is good. I think NASCAR Canada needs to look at, and I know that might not be a popular opinion because NASCAR has a lot of provinces that they need to cover, but if you don't have teams to race, you don't have a series. And I mean, it's a tough sell. I definitely feel for everybody that's done it this year. And I thank them. You talk about a team that tries to get out there, and racing series could benefit from obviously some major partnerships in Ontario, and I think that also has a lot to do with it. We have to stop oversaturating the same market. I think Graydon and I have kind of realized, even at Stickers and Scuffs, that there's not a ton of people, I think, that try to shoot for the stars. And I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but there's a lot of people, I think, that try to go to the same well. And there's only so many Mike Schmidts that everybody can't be sponsored by LRR. Everybody can't be sponsored by Two Speed Motorsports. When you've got a guy like Corey McAllister saying, stop sending me proposals. Like we can't sponsor everybody in Ontario. Mighty Wipes, Quick Wick, it becomes overwhelming. And we've had people that we don't even know ask us to sponsor. And while I can appreciate that, it's also extremely disrespectful to ask somebody you don't know for money. And now you're going to try and tell the drivers that they have to try and approach a business about that. I mean, we've talked with OSS racers and with asphalt drivers, and they've flat out said, we've got veterans that are 30 years in OSS, and they said, I don't want to ask somebody for money. I don't want to ask somebody because I know that they might be struggling just as much as I'm struggling. It's a very nice and humble approach. Spencer Riddell says there were drivers from all over the province and some states this weekend at the dirt tracks. They got to do what they got to do. They do what they got to do for the sport they love. I mean, it's a definite change between the two of them. I think you don't see that on the other side. Asphalt racing right now, if Delaware was an indication, and this again, not a slight at anybody, but the NASCAR Canada Series having 16 cars there, that hurt a lot. But it's a bigger issue than just count. It's why are we not able to get people there? Why are people not getting into seats? Why are people not being able to do it? Budgets, right? I think the way that it is in Canada, we don't have race teams that have a marketing specialist. I mean, I'll take Kevin Trevelyan as an example. Trevelyan, I talk with him on almost a daily basis, and if Trevelyan had his way, he would have 15 cars in OSS just run by himself. He knows he can't do that, but he also knows that to be able to get a partnership, he has to have a proposal. Well, he doesn't know how to put proposals together. He doesn't know how to do all the marketing side of it. He knows how to work on the cars. So now all of a sudden you're going to talk to big partnerships, but you have no idea how to start. And I think that's the big thing here is we've got a lot of guys and gals that they don't know. I mean, if you don't know a lot of people, there are some racers who are completely fine. They've got plenty of partnerships, but they know a lot of people. This is a key thing here. Spencer Riddell mentions this, and the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because this is something that I think people need to tune into. Canada is very multicultural, very big. Stop going to the well, as I talked about. Stop going to the same people for partnerships. Try outside of the regular market. Spencer Riddell says, I had a guy come up to me when I was loading Saturday that has never heard of car racing. He asked if we have to avoid the cops to race. People have no idea what racing is. It's true. I have had people at my workplace that say, I thought racing's an American thing. Well, sure, there's some originating racing in the States. Doesn't mean that we don't have it here. And I think the big markets, I mean, I've talked about this before. I want to see our NASCAR Canada guys in the Toronto Santa Claus Parade. Give people an eye as to what we've got going on here. Give out schedules, downtown Toronto. People might not like that, but you have to go where there's a lot of people. It's not the easiest thing, but it is important. Wearing your driver merch, get people interested as to what the heck you're wearing. I mean, I wear my driver's merch downtown Toronto all the time. Sure, it's not professional looking, but Brad Schmidt says, I've had tons of people asking me about racing when I'm wearing driver's merch. There you go. It's insane how many people don't know about it. It's true. Spencer Riddell says, or I say at Flamborough and they think it's a horse track. Well, that's a fair point. I've brought so many people from my neighborhood that can't wait to come back. It's true, though. It is absolutely true. So there's a lot of things. And, of course, one of the other things that we have to make sure that we have is stuff like this. No representation at major events outside of Motorama hurts short track racing. Scott Pro was 1,000% right here. And so is Kevin Trevelyan. I towed with an open trailer for years. It sure brings attention. Nobody at Drive Festival had 40,000 people. That's, I don't know if that's true because, well, short track, I believe we did have Keaton Pipe was there from the Legend Car Series. I think he was at the Drive Festival. But aside from that, you've got, like I said, 40,000 people there on a Sunday. No representation at the Toronto Auto Show. That's absolutely true. And Motorama, let's be honest, Scott, it isn't a auto racing central. It's a show that happens to feature it, but it's not fully regarding just racing. And if it were me, next year I'd try and get it even bigger. But again, how big do we go here? And is there going to, are you going to have enough people sign up? Because I know even that's been a problem. People have to take it for what opportunities they can try and get. And you got to work for it. And it's not the easiest thing. Every single person in racing knows that they have to have a partner to go racing. They have to do it. You unless you've got a lot of coin. And Kevin does mention the automotive industry is not as big as it used to be. It's true, and it's the big three. There's not as much involvement, and if you look about it, there's no manufacturer support. Mark Allen says racing is lost in a crowd of entertainment. We need to help people. We all need to help make people aware. Mark Allen has a great point here, because if you consider, and this is what I've talked about before, all of the options, and sure, there'll be the boomer crowd. Yes, I am calling you out, boomer crowd, that hates the fact that there's streaming services for NASCAR. That's actually fantastic, because what are most people doing nowadays? They're streaming. People don't have cable. It's just not a thing anymore. So subscriptions like this is extremely important. Getting options to stream like GeForce TV is extremely important. Wherever, Rogers TV, wherever you can get it. Having pedal power, having Strong Co, extremely important. More streams than people coming to the track. Dave, it's a catch-22, right? Because you could say it's either more streaming and people will stay home and watch, or it'll get more people interested. Now, I can only speak from my experience, Dave, and that's it. It got me hooked. Because again, I didn't know anything really about it. I only knew NASCAR Canada. That was it. And it was racing at Rogers TV and GeForce TV during the pandemic that I really fell in love with the Ontario racing. Eyes on the track or eyes on the track no matter what. Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I think is very important this year is what Sunset Speedway has done with a lot of heavy promotion, a lot of track initiatives, and especially what Peterborough has done with Film Kelly, giving us driver profiles, giving us behind the scenes, having something like Ben Hodgson doing videos from the booth. That's something very important. The more and more that you have shows like this that is talked about what is going on, the better. Now, I'm not talking specifically to my job, but what we need is all tracks doing that. And I understand it is not the easiest thing, because you have to get somebody that's going to do it that loves it, that wants to promote it. Not just somebody that's part of the officiating team that you stick doing social media. And Ashley says, you touched on the Peterborough points before I could type. That's what I'm saying, though. If it's noticeable to me, it's noticeable to other people. If it's noticeable to you, other people are noticing it as well. We weren't paying attention, if we didn't see it, then it wasn't noticeable, because we are in the racing scene. It's also building the whole show. Absolutely, Scott. The other side of it too, Scott, is it's also limiting the show. You can't have a 7-hour, 8-hour day racing. It is not the ticket. It's not at all. When people go to a NASCAR Cup race, they're there for 3 to 4 hours max. That's how long the race is. So when we have those nights where it's a ton on everybody, it's in the heat, you have to have stuff for people to do that isn't just sitting on their ass. As someone who sits on his ass quite regularly and is fond of it, not everybody is. Get out there, and as we said, you got your merch tents. I firmly believe that if you have some sort of fan appreciation-esque it's going to benefit kids coming to the show. I think whatever you can do to move the show along, the better. If that's limiting the laps, yes, not a popular decision. if that's limiting the rules to, we start counting caution laps, limiting heats, but also doing major initiatives. People don't want to spend $50 entry fee to go watch cars turn around in circles. That's the truth. It is not a thing for NASCAR, for weekly racing. People will do that and spend it for the big show, the top of the line, but not their weekly stuff. So when you have initiatives where all of a sudden you're paying $2 to get in, look at the crowds at Peterborough on the double toonie nights, on the season opener. Yes, you might take a hit on your entries, on your entry fees, people coming and paying to get in. However, I've never heard of a track selling out of their food. Completely sold out. I remember Brandon Feeney getting there and him sending me a video, and he's pulling in, Brandon Feeney, so he's there for opening night. He pulls into the driveway. It was more full than it was for autumn colors, and you couldn't see an empty parking spot on the opening night. Now, if you're going to be able to do that for every week, that's a little hard to do that every week. You can't really do that. But as Graydon points out here, we had S&S swag bags, giveaways, merchandise, ticket giveaways, photos with their favorite driver. Yeah, there you go. Scott Pro Delaware ran out of coffee, tea, hot chocolate this Saturday. It was because it was also freezing. But tracks need to do this too. Racers need to do this. And they can do it through the track. It doesn't have to be done by themselves. And I think that's the thing that it comes down to. I don't want to have to do all this myself. Well, that's where working together. I will say it. We've done it this year with Sunset. They've been phenomenal with trying to put stuff together, work together. I was blown away with. We did something for OSS where a fan won, and the kids got hats. They got a chance to get a picture with their driver. That's the type of stuff that kids don't forget. Kids remember getting autographs. So even if it's something where fan appreciation-esque, you have 3 drivers in the concourse each week. A driver that isn't racing. So they can do it. Have cars on display. I saw Sunset and Peterborough, Delaware did that. Have people that can do giveaways. Volunteer is tough. Wholesale ticket packs for drivers. Great idea from Scott. Discounted rates. Another good thing, I think. Half price for sponsors. Obviously, tracks want to make a buck, right? They have to. That's a business. They need to make money. But when the racing community comes together, they do magical things. Hell, watch the APC race to see what Connor Pritico and his team did at the end. That's the type of stuff that moves mountains in racing. It's important. And unfortunately, we do have a lot of people that are still in the racing community that don't see any benefit. Now, I believe it needs to start at the top and filter its way down. So yes, I am talking to NASCAR drivers being at weekly events. Appearances. What's more likely to get you to a race? Me handing you a pair of tickets saying come and see me, or having to go out are having to go to the track and line up. Got to try, right? Divisions having some sort of a show car, racing experiences, high schools, getting the high schools involved with tech classes. There's so much. And unfortunately, everybody knows real life gets in the way. Real life makes it difficult to be able to do all of these things. But I think what we have to remember is working together also does. You have championship weekend this Saturday at Sunset Speedway, championship weekend, also at Grand Bend Speedway. And those two tracks are very different in contrast. Very, very different. NASCAR tracks. I believe Sunset is still a NASCAR home track. I honestly couldn't tell you. Oh, there you go. Spencer Riddell. Ohsweken Speedway does a school fundraiser for weekly half-price tickets. Can buy the whole season for half price. That's a great deal. For myself as stickers and scuffs, I mean, honestly, I think having media people be able to try and bring fans in as well, having tour of the pits, or having the ability to bring some young racers, give them an opportunity to go down. They don't have to buy, though. I think you could do something like a tour of the pits, almost like a guided tour in a way. Show people behind the scenes. Yeah, it's not, maybe you do like a $45 thing, or you have to pay a little bit extra, but then give people and show them what goes on, what's going on here. Because I think what happens is we see people kind of come into the pits and they don't really know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to stand. They don't know if they can ask drivers. But if you have somebody that's at the track that knows all the racers already, that can introduce them. I mean, we had that happen with Flamborough. We had a dad and his two young daughters, and luckily I was standing right there, and Laura Authier was, hopefully Laura remembers this. And Laura was right there, and she had hero cards and stickers, and it was just like, hey, here's this girl, she drives, and they got a picture together, and we brought Trevelyan in with them, and they all got a picture together, and then pointed them to the other ladies that raced, and Caitlin Wallace, and especially MRC, because they're weekly there with Caitlin and Sherry Hogan, and just said, oh, make sure you go see the other girls that race. And that's kind of what you want. If you can have somebody that's at the track that knows the racers, that's there, sure, an official or somebody related. I mean, obviously, I think that's the one thing is I think you got people coming in that just they might not know anything about it. And so they come in there and they're kind of, you can see who knows and who doesn't, because they're walking and they walk very slow and they don't really know where they're supposed to go and where they're not. And I think there's something there, right? I think that you could have people that go to the racetrack and be introduced to an experience that they've never seen before. You take them and say, okay, this week, drivers taking cars to the stands even after the event. Absolutely. Or like, I know it sounds, this is one of those things that you go, I understand people might not want to do this, but thank you, Ashley. That's what I'm looking for, as a pit ambassador or a track ambassador. That's what we're talking about. I mean, I thought about that for the stickers and scuffs being like racing ambassadors, where, we want to showcase the racing, but you have people at the track specifically able to help people come in and enjoy and learn. Because that's the thing. You want to get people into the racing scene. So, and the other thing, have them coming in and not interrupting, I think is the other thing too. You don't want people to be kind of walking in and out of people's pits. And I've seen that as well, where people don't know where they're allowed to go and where they're not. And I think you have something like that where they can go to tech, or they can go to I'm thinking specifically at Sunset just because I know it a little bit more, but go to tech and see what's going on there. Have somebody explain. I honestly, legitimately, I know this is a little of a bad comparison, but I'm thinking of like the Zoomobile at the Toronto Zoo, where they'd literally go and show you different places and different things that take place at a racetrack, or at the zoo, but like in racetrack form, right? So you have a group of like 5 to 6 kids that want to go and learn about what's going on. They get and then they get a gift bag at the end of the night that has a whole bunch of cool shit in it from the track. We talked about this before, man. When you get free stuff, you want to go back where you got free stuff. Racing is different. It's not like hockey. It's not like basketball where you aren't going to necessarily go. Yes, a kids club, Feeney, just like what Full Throttle has. You're not necessarily going to have people that are going to show up and next week, because they like car racing, they're going to come back. You want to incentivize them to come back. This is a good one here. Gord McPherson, it has been great getting first-time fans out to experience it. My siblings have gone for the first time to cheer on Ben and left amazed, wondering why they never knew how great the night would be. And that's I think what a lot of it is. I mean, we had, okay, there you go. Robbie Sykes has a good one. Barrie Speedway used to have a pit train, load fans on the front stretch and drive through the pits. I love that. I think that's fantastic. Pavement's got to step up their game. All these things you're saying the dirt tracks are doing, and it's a hit. Charlie rides in the pits on the track. Absolutely love it. If you can showcase a little bit of what's going on, give a little bit more behind the scenes, the kids that maybe don't have the money to go and get an opportunity, you get a draw or something and you get the opportunity to go down in the pits. Yes, I think a lot of it is after the race. That can happen too, but it's a different experience when the night's over and when there is still racing happening. Kids incentives, like I said, Sunset's done a fantastic job. Peterborough's done a fantastic job. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, fantastic idea, Ashley. Initiatives. Sick kids is always a big thing too, right? Always want to support wherever you can. And I think those themed nights that we've seen from the tracks that do it, very important. Very, very good that they do that. Think pits should be I'm not going to agree on pits being free as long as you pay the normal fee of admission, because then you might have situations where there's too many people in the pits, and I've seen that before, and it's not a good scenario. In fact, personally, like, I actually think you should limit the amount of people that you do let in there, because you have people that unfortunately sometimes they're in there and they've got really young kids that are running around, and it's not the safest place. So like having something that is a tour based thing, all of a sudden, you have options. How cool would it be to like bring the kids to go meet Brendan, or meet Charlie and Ben, or meet or meet Kevin Small, and then they get to do a little announcement at the track. They get to call the race just like what we've seen before, or they get to do something, for sure. Kids free, Mike Schmidt says. Yes. Do whatever it takes to get them hooked. Sideshows, if needed, and they will bug their parents to bring them. Good example is monster trucks. Flamborough is packed when they are there. Kids push their parents to bring them. You want to make sure that the kids, if you go in, Rich Schwarzenberg was just up at full throttle. What they did is they, as a team, gave Hot Wheels to 41, or I think they had 41 Hot Wheels to give to the kids. Spencer Riddell says perfect attendance. Perfect attendance at Flamborough this year gets you free admission for next year. Yes, please. Dave Bragg, my kids are obsessed with the track. Oh, sorry guys, the comments keep scrolling. Are obsessed with the track with every weekend, and already talking about wanting to race. Fan appreciation is huge for them, and the kids rides. Yes, kids rides are huge. Jordan Smith, I'll always take the time to explain what racing is to someone who doesn't know. I'll tell them all the different areas in Ontario I visit, what a hot rod and a modified are. Try explaining what a modified is to someone who has no clue. Yeah, I can imagine. I've invited friends to tag along, come to the pits, and follow me through racing. Even take your time to explain, invite your friends, promote the sport you love to the world. It's nothing for any of us to talk about racing for a few minutes and educate somebody. I think the one thing you're talking about, Jordan, here too, is passion. It's passion. People love to see somebody that's so passionate about something that they love. I mean, when we got started in doing our podcasting and doing this show, it was people were from my work were actually inquiring, and I work in a financial district in downtown Toronto at an intellectual property law firm. It's far from racing. And, I think doing that type of stuff, like I said, I think downtown Toronto, if we could do something where we have representation, if I could find a way to have stickers and scuffs in downtown Toronto and have reps from every track, I would do it. Don Young and Dundas Square, bring as many cars as possible, set up a Racing from Ontario section, and let's go to town. Tyler Hahn talked about having his hot rod for a photo op downtown during COVID, and he said even despite it being dead quiet for COVID, he said the amount of people that double took and couldn't believe what was going on and were just enthralled by it. If all of a sudden now we set up tents that have Sunset Speedway, Peterborough Speedway, Delaware Speedway, the Toronto, like as much as we want to say it, Toronto is the hub of Ontario, right? It is where the major source of money is. A lot of businesses are headquartered there. So all of a sudden, if you put it down there, then there's also a possibility of you getting the city news, the CTV news, CBC, all the local businesses, the radio stations, the people from the content creators. Like you all of a sudden are going to have, yes, this is Nala, Ashley. She loves to be on camera. You have a market there. Now, again, what I talked about before is how multicultural our country is, how multicultural Ontario is, and you've got a large population of people that have never seen racing ever, that could have businesses, that could have all of their friends and their family interested in motorsports because they've never seen it before. We have had a couple of partners in Ontario Sportsman Series that didn't know a thing about it and aren't a generic racing fan. Yes, I'm saying generic, people that you typically would see at a racetrack. And all of a sudden, what happened? They got involved like that. Like that. Immediately. Because it's new, it's something interesting, it's something they've never ever seen before. Now all of a sudden, you take racers and not just, and I'm not talking just NASCAR here, I am talking OSS, hot rods, modifieds, junior late models, stuff that kids downtown would have never seen, ever. Yes, Laura Authier had to deal with Build a Dream this year, and most of the kids had never even seen a race car. I would think if you go back, and a lot of kids, they know Cars, the movie, Disney movie. That's what they know race cars from. Gord has another point here, which is the weekly cruise-ins, the cruise nights. And again, not just one or two, and not just outside of the city. Go to your Pickering, Ajax, Toronto, Whitby, Oshawa, the sprint cars, absolutely. Tow truck, there you go. Ashley says, I had a tow truck come and pick Matt's car up, and he had his little daughter with him, tow truck driver, not my son. And she saw the junior late models, and now she wants to drive one. There you go. It's showcasing. And I understand Motorama is the big deal, but it's one weekend. We got to try and do more. I mean, it would take a lot. I don't know what the city would consider about it. But this is something that we haven't done. We haven't seen it. You don't know how many people walk by, how many people could want to get involved, how many businesses could see it and get interested. And then you have the representation from the tracks there. That's the key that's the key part. You get the tracks there that have a booth. And listen, I'm not going to lie to you all. I don't like downtown. No one likes downtown. No one likes driving downtown. Everybody hates it. But this is something that you got to consider. One time during the year. Ashley has another point about tracks maybe having an open house. Absolutely, great idea. An off weekend. I used to bring my demo derby cars to car shows an off weekend and invite the hell out of schools, businesses. Yes. People love free stuff. If you're going to have a big event and then you're going to charge people $50 or $60 to get in, not really what people want. I mean, I talk about going to the Toronto Zoo. I bring it back because that's what we used to do all the time. It used to be cheap to take the kids there. I think it's like $30 now per to get in. We can't be more for racing than stuff like that. And if you consider how much hockey tickets are, we got to be under that for everybody. Basketball, baseball tickets. Make something attractive. Go for a bit of a drive, go to a racetrack, get free stuff, get an autograph, get pictures, pick a car to see if they win. That's how it started for me. I still remember going to Peterborough Speedway. Would have been probably around 2002, 2001, 2002. First CAS car race was 2003. And we had seen, I would love to know what type of series I saw at it was actually not Peterborough, sorry, it was Mosport Oval. And I remember my dad pulling up saying that we were helping one of his friends move. And it was me and my brother and him. And I remember pulling into Mosport, and there was an old beat up car that was just like right by the entrance. And so then we show up and we get into the track, and we both got checkered flags, which again, kids like flags. And I want to say it was Thunder cars, but it was like a mix. Ashley, it was one race, and there were cars. One looked like an old stock car. One had. There were definitely old Thunder. There was definitely some old Thunder cars, and I remember it was number 55. And I had picked number 55. That was the car that I picked to win, and it did. And I was hooked from that first race that my dad took me to. And then we went back and we went to CAS car, and all of a sudden became a huge fan. And then all of a sudden we go to Peterborough for the first time, and that night, Cascar was racing, but I swear they had Cascar, Legends, Sprints, Thunder Cars, and what was the last one? And the Sportsman Series. And what a show. What a show. I feel as if Ontario sportsmen, if they can get a little bit more centralized, get a little bit bigger. The car counts were much stronger to start the season, but if you can get a bit more people interested, similarly to what we've seen with the APC, it could be something attractive for Ontario racing. I think it's still got a ways to go there. But when I go back and see how you can get shows going, I don't remember there being as many heats. I don't remember there being a lot of that type of stuff. Obviously, it was much, much younger, but there's a lot of things that we as racers can look forward to, and we as racing fans can look forward to, those that are involved. And this weekend, we have two championship races, or two championship nights that are going to take place. Grand Bend Speedway. There's actually a week later. They were rained out this past weekend. And then Sunset Speedway on Saturday. Sunset every single class, and 3 p.m. starts. Championships will be decided. Really close championship battle right now in the hot rods between Amanda Balson and Tom Walters. See who comes away with that championship. I believe everything else is pretty well close to decided. I'm not sure about modifieds, what their championship looks like. Yes, and Chris Aller did mention this on his episode on the Stickers and Scuffs podcast last week about making all the rules the same for the same division. You can't have different rules. You have to have interchangeable, so that you can go from track to track to track each week and not have to worry about a thing. Now, I understand that's not the easiest thing, having all the tracks work together. It's not the easiest thing at all, because everybody wants to have people come to their track. But let's try and have everybody work together. If you want racing to survive, you need to. What about a points sharing program between tracks? I think that's going to be a little bit harder of a sell, Ashley. But like a track, how do you do this? Like an inter-track championship between two different series, two different tracks. I could see that working very well. The one thing that we can't get away from, though, is getting people away. One night deal when Peterborough had the 50-lap bone stock. Whatever you can do to get the tracks to work together and get the series to work together, the better. I want to thank each and every one who comes on and does the show and participates in the chat. We have a long off season coming. There's already a lot of cars on the market following the Great Canadian Weekend. Pro late models. There's a bunch. See it every year. There's OSS cars. But if we really want racing to succeed and to continue, we have to stop the fighting. We have to stop the arguing, trying to get this fan or that fan. You need to work together. Media, racers, divisions, whatever we can do. So what I tell you guys to do this weekend, go out and support your local racetrack. You got a couple that are still running. Flamborough's out there. They got a busy weekend. Grand Bend. you haven't been out there, go and support them. They're gonna have single qualifying, and they're gonna have single races for their championship night, junior sprints as well, and all their NASCAR classes. Peterborough's off, so Peterborough crowd, get out there. Go to another track this week. Sauble crowd, get out there. Go to Delaware if you can. We're back every Monday at 7 o'clock here on G-Force TV, your home for short track racing, your home for Rush Weekend Speedway. Make sure you head back here tomorrow. Race Rivals Race Chat with Adam Ross and Clinton Jeffrey. Cam K, thank you so much, everybody. Have yourself a good weekend. We'll enjoy this chat. Thank you to Morgan Moore, the captain, for our intro tonight. Of course, if you want to do an intro, send it to me. Thumbs up, share. We'll catch you all next week here on ONTrack Weekly.